Good morning, everybody. Today we have Paulette with a new patch project. So work from your stash. Here we go. Take it away, Paulette.
Okay, today we're doing a little project. It's on the wall here behind me, and it's called Charlie's Quilt. And it's called Charlie's Quilt because when my grandson Charlie was born, I came across this rectangular block that is a Portuguese tile, is what it was called. And his mother is from Portuguese descent, so I thought, okay, I'm going to play with this block. So what you need, these are rectangular blocks. So they're not a square block, they're a rectangle. And you need a common background, or you could have, as long as you have light and dark, you have some contrast, that's what you need. So to make this rectangle, you need, I'm going to call this yellow my background because in this quilt here, it is my background. So you need two 3.5 by 6.5 inch pieces and two 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares, and you need exactly the same of your background. So the block uses exactly the same amount of stash fabric and the background, which is probably from your stash too. So very easy to put together. I'm just going to take these down. And so what you're going to do, if you're cutting these, and you have yardage, say for your background, you've got 2 or 3 meters of something, and you've got yardage. So with the fabric, one 3.5 inch strip will make two of these blocks. So for the background, you'd get two blocks out of one strip of yardage.
Okay.
If you have smaller pieces, like say all you need is 7 by 10, because then you can cut all of your 3.5 inch by 6.5 and 3.5 by 3.5 out of a 7 by 10. So, look in your stash and see if you can manage to cut the pieces that you need. So what we're going to do is, now these blocks are all the same. So if you look at every one of these blocks, there's the bright color there, and then it kind of curves and goes down to there. So it's exactly the same here, 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 here.
Okay.
So that's the orientation that we need to keep. So what we're going to do is take these squares that we had, and we're going to place them on, I should have done it this way. We're going to place them on top of the colored fabric.
Okay, and that is right sides together.
Right sides together. So we're going to be laying, I should actually lay that out for you. I'm ahead of myself in my notes.
She gets excited.
We're finally doing it. So I need to make sure that I have this in the upper left and this is in the lower right. And then, of course, my background fabrics are going to be in these two spots. So they're opposites. And I'm going to have, that's going to go in there and that's going to go in there. So what I need to do is to get this little diamond thing that's in the center. Now, so you will be marking a diagonal on the back of your squares. So you need to mark that on your
the wrong side of the fabric.
Side.
Okay.
If I'm using a darker fabric that a pencil won't work on, I do use friction pens. So like the lime green or the red works quite well on darker fabrics. So you need to draw a diagonal on all of your squares, background and on the other one. So what you're doing is then you're placing that face, right sides together.
Yep.
You're going to be sewing on that line, and when you trim, you're going to end up with that shape. So we'll just bring another sample up here because I can. Make sure I lay it out right for you. So if you have a directional fabric, so if it matters to you, sometimes when you're doing scrap quilts, people don't care if things are going, all the same way. But maybe you can see up in this green block here, it's kind of has a line. So I've orientated things so that they all go the right direction, like they're all going the same direction.
Right.
And this one's got a very definite line in it as well. So like I cut those so that they were doing that. So if you come across that in your fabrics, so here's a cute little cars and trucks and things. And so I want to cut these so that, you know, they're facing me properly. So then what I'm going to do is lay these, I need to put these on here. So what I need to do is lay those on there. And then of course we're going to have background ones on these blocks. But these ones here, so I know that I need a diagonal going that direction. So I'm going to grab these two little points and I'm just going to flip it over and keep them in those spots. And now when I draw the diagonal on here, it's going to be correct when I sew that and open it up.
Oh, I see. So you can audition it before that you sew it and then find out that you've done them all upside down or sideways or something. Yeah.
And you don't have to audition by laying it on and then flipping it this way, that way. If you just lay it on the way it needs to be, and then I know the diagonal goes this way. If you grab the diagonal points there and just flip it over so that those points stay up here and down here.
Stay in the same place. Okay.
And if you will always notice that it's going sideways. So I'm actually going, you know, the block now, the cars and trucks are going this direction instead of going this direction. But when I sew that, it's going to be correct. Okay. So that's a little trick for, you know, directional fabrics. If you know, are want to keep things kind of going the same way.
Yeah, see, I would, because that would just, there are very strict limits to my ability to be a scrapper.
So here we are with we've marked our diagonals and we've sewn on the diagonal lines. So there we are. I've sewn along all of these diagonals here and I've got them in the orientation they need to be. So now when I trim them, I am going to have, and I do draw diagonals on these because this is 3.5 inch square.
Yeah.
So it's quite big. So once you've done that, you will have, take my notes off, you will have all of your pieces will be ready to sew together. And what I do, this has to work. This has to work. So there are my 4 pieces all ready to go. And what I do is I sew, now I'm pressing towards the dark. So because this has a light background, I'm pressing towards my stash fabric. But if you had a dark background, you would press towards the background. So you press towards your darkest fabric.
Okay, so what seam do you sew first?
So I just sew these diagonals that I just did.
You did the diagonals.
I did the diagonals. Now I have flipped over the fabric like this. Yep. I've actually trimmed this all off.
Yep.
This is quite a big piece. If you want to make a second seam so you have a half square triangle, you can go for it. But I'm sewing my stash, so I am not making a second seam.
She thinks she's going to get through her stash.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first seam is the diagonals.
The diagonals.
You're doing all those diagonals. You're going to trim off this excess here, right. Flip this over, and you're pressing it towards the dark. So I would be pressing this towards the dark. So this one here is pressed towards the dark, yep. And this one is pressed towards the dark. So this helps you a lot when you go to sew these together now.
Right.
Because we're going to now cozy this guy up to this, and we want to get a nice little point there. Yep. And we do the same with this guy. And because they're going in different directions towards the dark, then we do get really nice little
sharp points
on that. Yeah, it works wonderfully. Yeah. Then, so now when I'm pressing these units that I've just made, I still press them towards the dark. So when I look at this, I consider this big dark piece the dark.
Okay.
Even though The
There's
same
going to be a
amount
little
is
bit
there and the
that's going to
same
get,
amount is
yeah,
there, but I press them towards the dark. And of course, one will be going, you know, this way and one will be going this way.
right.
So again,
So they're going
this
to
little
nest.
center thing's going to nest beautifully there, nest beautifully on the outside corners too. So you can see in this one that's sewn together that you still get really nice points and everything.
Yeah.
Now, this quilt, when this final seam, because these are placed right next to each other, you need to press some of them up and some of them down. The good thing is that if you need to rotate something, you know, you've got it all laid out and then the seam's not going the right way, you could just turn it upside down. And,
yeah,
you know, no matter which way you turn this, it's always going to be going this direction.
Oh, I see.
Even if you turn it this way.
Okay.
So just make sure that you know, alternate your middle seams so that it's easier to sew them together. So I sewed them together in rows, and then I sewed the blocks together first to make rows.
Yeah.
So there is an 8-point center there, but that's the only one. So it's there, there. So when you're sewing the rows together, you are going to have 8-point centers. Mine are not all perfect. This one's a good one. Heather, you can zoom in on that one. So,
ooh, that is a beauty. Look at that.
Yeah. So
very nicely done.
On this one, I actually added a little bit of a, you know, outside border. This is 1.25 inches, and this is a 5.5 inch. And actually, the top and bottom are 6 inch. So I made that a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get the proportions a little bit better. Now you can play around with the design. If you've got lots of colors, you could, like, say, put all of your red ones in this little flowy line here, and then maybe put blue ones in, you know, so you can, once you have all your blocks made, play around with them on your table so that you can, you know, get what's pleasing to you.
Yeah.
And you can think about that ahead too. You might want to use just 2 colors and alternate the rows of 2 colors. So
yeah,
there's lots of options.
This
and it's
is
such
fabulous.
a simple little block. And
I like this quilt.
And it's different.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you the actual Charlie's quilt. So Heather, over here this is the baby quilt that I made for Charlie.
Oh, isn't that cute?
So this is the same block, but I also made a mirror image block.
Oh, okay, okay.
So this is, these were rejects from the quilt. So this is the, okay, where is it? I have to look at it again. Okay, so there's the regular block.
Yep.
And then this one is a mirror image block. So it's exactly.
Oh, like, so it gives you a totally different look.
Totally different look. So if you look at the baby quilt, and so these were cut smaller. These were only 2.5 inch strips, not 3.5. But I thought for a small baby quilt, I didn't want as chunky
it to be overwhelming.
A look as this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I also have another quilt for you to see. So this is, again,
okay, it's going to be a little bit jerky here, guys. I'll try to be as smooth as I can as I just kind of back up, because this is a bigger one. There we go.
Yeah. So this is a mirror image quilt. And what I did is I have half of the blocks are the regular blocks that we made that go this direction, like this. And half of the blocks are a mirror image block, which goes the other direction. And in
holy man, that looks so different.
Yes, and a dark background as opposed to light. I also, for borders, I kept the same colors I used for my background, so I just have these sort of interesting shapes floating on a sea of navy blue.
I think this one's my favorite.
It turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I do like this one.
And again, I have thrown everything in there. I have got Christmas fabric, I have got tigers, I have got ladybugs, and I've got flowers. I don't have any batik in this one. I've got ABCs, and this is some indigenous designs on that fabric. This one was from my mother's stash. So,
good heavens.
Yeah. So, you know, I threw it all together, And I think just changing. So the only thing you're going to do different is instead of laying your, your bright colors in this direction, you're just going to put them in the opposite directions. Otherwise, the sewing is all the same.
Yeah.
And then,
wow,
when you sew it together.
This is fabulous, Paulette.
Yeah.
And we have patterns available?
We have patterns available. Yep. And so the patterns are for the one with the yellow background, but then there's an additional sheet that shows you how to do the mirror images.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Paulette.
You're welcome.
Fabulous. Fabulous. My head is spinning as to which fabrics I could use. So anyway, we hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thank you again to Paulette. And thank you guys all for watching our little movies. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.